been quite a week for Zeta. Obviously, we announced our major partnership with OpenAI last night. We're super excited. My main man, Nate, who's here, who joined us after years at Meta and Microsoft and the White House, came in and really championed that deal and helped us get it over the finish line. So we're very, very excited about that deal and what we're doing as a company. But to me, the most interesting thing to happen to me in quite some time was the first time I got to meet Dan. And this is true because if you look at Dan and you look at me, you probably don't think these two cats are going to meet and become like best friends. We have different personalities. I dress a little more fashionably than Dan does, but we'll forgive him for that. And we were introduced actually, quite frankly, pretty recently, and we've hung out a bunch of times since then. But the first time I met him, I was just blown away by how much we had in common and how, quite frankly, smart you are. Just really seeing around corners, understanding. I know it's very unusual for me to be nice to anybody, and you're probably, I tease everybody. But, the truth is, he really is a legend. And he's been working with me on a whole bunch of stuff and helping me to get smarter about a lot of things. So when he said we should do a fireside chat at CES, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
So it was great. We have prepared effectively no topics. We've prepared no notes.
Zero.
Come on in. I was gonna pick up a matching jacket, but they didn't have it in my size. But in all seriousness, Dan, thank you so much for being here today.
No, first of all, thank you so much for having me, and thanks everyone for coming, everyone that's watching as well. Look, I mean, I'm so excited because for me, covering tech since late 90s, I love finding tech companies where they're doing things that are special, and I think a lot of the investors don't even understand what's really happening. I think when me and you started talking, really digging into what Zeta is doing, and especially in the AI revolution, I'd almost say at the centerpiece of the AI revolution, but yet so many investors not recognizing, obviously OpenAI, and we'll talk about that, a huge step there. But I think I'd start there, like walk through, a lot of times people say, are you an AI company? To any tech company, are you AI? Just because you have AI 30 times in a PowerPoint or you say it 30 times.
Well, I remember when AI first hit, and people always ask me, what was the seminal moment? And I always say the launch of ChatGPT, right? Because that was the day that AI went from science fiction to boardroom conversation. The next 2 quarters, we would play drinking games at Zeta. How many times people would say AI on their earnings calls? The problem was we were faced halfway through the calls. But to your point, everybody just pivoted to the narrative of AI very quickly.
And to that point, let's talk about Zeta and just really understand for people that don't follow it as closely. When we talk about data and at the epicenter, where you guys are, because I could argue to some extent you've been doing AI really from the beginning. If you actually start to think about it, could you just connect the dots, like right there?
Yeah, I mean, so we started 17 years ago on the premise that controlling very large pools of first-party data would become very valuable. We then moved into automation. Then it became machine learning, and we were doing very complex machine learning. And then in 2017, we really pivoted the entire company. We figured out what most people don't understand yet, which is putting an AI module on top of an antiquated platform doesn't actually work. And what we had to do at the time, Dan, you would have loved this. So we have 2 big private equity partners. I go in, we're making pretty good money at the time. We called ourselves a customer lifecycle marketing platform at that time, where we would do acquisition and retention and so on and so forth. I went into a board meeting and I said, well, guys, we're going to go from making, pick a number, 50 million a year in EBITDA, which was a lot of money back then. Now it's a good month. And literally, I told them we're going to make no money for the next 3 years. I'm going to take 400 full-time engineers and we're going to re-architect our entire platform to make AI and data native to the application layer. So foundational.
How much silence in the board, like once you said that?
Silence. Like literally, I would tell you, and you know me well, those who know me really well, I'm really about consensus as an individual. I started my first company when I was 16. I was the youngest guy in the room for the first 20 years I ran companies. I am now universally the oldest guy in any room I go into. And to me, it's sort of like, well, I'm happy to have Brian here or Barry here because he's older than me. But the reality is that I sort of say the truth lays in the middle, right? So we went into this board meeting and we had no consensus. We had one side that was really upset. Another side was like, listen, we can do this. And I told them, I said, listen, we're never going to become the company we want to become unless we do this. Because the way I saw it in 2017 is we were at the time ingesting so much data that to run a comprehensive report would take days. And we needed an answer in a millisecond. The math didn't work. Now we're probably ingesting, 10, 20 times more data today than we were in 17. And we're able to process, millions of data points and come up with a solution and an answer in a millisecond, which is really how we've made this leap to return on investment for our clients, right? Because if you're not able to bring in the right amount of data, how do you know who to serve which advertisement? How do you know who's likely to churn? How do you know which message to generate to which person?
Well, to that point, like it goes back to your journey to where we are today. And obviously we'll talk about Athena and talk about OpenAI and everything. But now, like when you go, you're here, 30, 40 meetings, constantly meeting with customers. Now walk through, like you walk into a customer, you walk into a CIO. What is it about Zeta, the actual, like the mousetrap, the secret sauce that separates you?
Well, first of all, let me start by saying when we meet a new prospective client, I say to them, for every dollar you spend on our platform, I will return you between $6 and $7. That is off the charts. Our average competitor is less than half that. But we aspire to 10 times, just to be clear, and we think Athena is going to help us get there. But I start with that because if you think of the marketing ecosystem, Dan, it's really interesting. So you've got this whole funnel, right? You've got this marketing funnel that's been used forever that goes like that. And very large enterprises start at the top of the funnel because they need to. They're really big and they need to really drive velocity into their business. And then you have all these insurgents who start at the bottom of the funnel and they're really focused on performance. But what happens to them is they start getting bigger because they're winning. And then all of a sudden, the bottom of the funnel is not driving the velocity, the growth they need. So they start to move up the funnel. And then the big guys are trying to move down the funnel. And everybody ends up in the middle. So this middle funnel for marketing is where Zeta really thrives. And it's white space for most organizations. And if you think about it, our ability to drive a massively superior return on investment to our competitors is what fuels our business.
And especially when you think about the intersection now, marketing and AI and where we are. And maybe even talk, so let's just talk about OpenAI partnership, obviously announced last night.
Yep.
So significant. Talk about how that is maybe a game changer for you guys going forward. And then we'll start there.
Yeah, I mean, let me start by saying we think that OpenAI is going to be the definitive company of the artificial intelligence generation. I wouldn't sleep on Google, but I think OpenAI is going to be the pure play definitive. So to be able to do a partnership with them was really exciting. For us, this was about how do we get to true native with OpenAI? How do we put them at the heart of Athena? And the only way to have done that was through a partnership, because we're not like buying their API. Like we've literally merged this together, and they are going to become foundational to Athena, which, by the way, as we roll Athena out to all of our customers, will fully integrate into everything they're doing with OpenAI.
Well, and that goes to the step process, right? I mean, Athena actually, when it's launched, when she launched, now OpenAI. I mean, I imagine like every customer conversation that you're in, Athena has to come up.
So I will tell you, we did a series of demos today, and we have Roman, who's on our team, who's really, really exceptional. He helps to lead the work, and he does the demo really well. I walked into 3 meetings today. Every single person was like, this is going to change the game. And if you look at the quote from the UFC, WWE people, they've been using it. We have a lot of clients. We called it our special access program. So Athena is being used by clients today. It's now in full beta, and it'll be fully available by the end of this quarter. But everybody who's using it is just blown away by it. And one of the things I think a lot of people do not understand, and how are we able to develop such a comprehensive conversational platform so quickly?
Because I think that is a big question, right? The question is like, oh, well, okay, we're going to launch this, they're going to launch this. Why with Zeta?
Yeah, everybody's like, who the hell are you and how did you do this, right? A lot of it goes back, like when we started with AI in 2017, when OpenAI launched, it went from, that's when AI went from science fiction to boardroom conversation. So every board of directors is asking every CEO, what's our AI strategy? Every CEO is asking every CIO, CTO, CMO, what's our AI strategy? And we were there. So if you look at our business, our growth rate is substantially higher over the last 3 years than it was in the 3 years prior to that at scale. And a lot of that is because we had built the products that work. So let's go back to
organically.
We built it all in-house. What I would say is, why are we able to build a conversational super agent when other larger enterprises are still on sort of version 1 of their agentic platform? Goes back to a product we built 2 years ago called Zoey. Zoey was a conversational interface, a voice interface that allowed our clients to talk to the platform. Now, I joked it was like using an old, CB radio. You'd say, Zoey, what does my platform utilization look like today? Over. And then Zoey would talk back, and you'd have to wait, and if you talked at the same time. But here's what we saw. First of all, we started the UI early around voice because we do believe that conversational AI is going to remove the friction between the consumer and the platform. And we believe that voice would be one of the killer apps for quite some time. The other thing we saw, Dan, which was really interesting, customers who adopted Zoey spend between 200 and 225% more on our platform than customers that didn't adopt Zoey. So I'll give you a great situation. I was in with a multinational enterprise today. We're going through it. They're literally asking questions. They're blown away by it. The woman is looking at the poor sales rep who's sitting in there trying to pitch her on it. And she's like, well, what is this going to cost me? And I guess bad on us, he didn't know. So I looked at her and said, it's free. And she was like, wait, what? You're telling me you're going to give me this for free? I said, yes. And I'm telling you that once you start using it, you're going to spend 300 or 400% more on my platform.
That's the key.
But why? And we fight about this. So internally, there is a contingent of people who want us to charge for this.
Sure.
And I'm the guy saying, no. Because if you think about it, so what am I going to charge? Let's say I charge $99 a seat, $500 a seat, whatever you charge. So this year, at the middle of our range, I'll round here, we'll do about 1.25 billion. We've already told the street we think we'll do 1.7 billion next year. That's our first announcement. And the reality is we've beaten and raised 17 quarters in a row as a public company. How much can I drive the needle at $500 a seat.
Because it's a seeding strategy.
That's it.
I mean, that's at the core.
That's it.
When you think about Athena, it's a seeding strategy, and with OpenAI, I mean, this is really now putting you on. It's really on the global map as a seeding strategy. To when you think about data and where everything's heading, that you are now at the epicenter.
Right at the center. And when I told her that, she was like, how fast can I get it? And I think what we're going to see is, I believe we're going to continue to grow this company on a compounded organic growth rate of greater than 20% for many years to come. And I think, we've already done it, I think 5 years in a row, maybe 4. I don't know. There was a little blip in COVID. If you take COVID out, which we grew that year, it's many, many more years than that of 20+% organic compounded growth rate. I think Athena is going to continue that at a minimum for many years to come. Not because we're charging $500 a seat, but if you look at our business, last year our net retention rate was 114%. How do we take that up? Yeah.
And what, like, so far with like the beta program, or what so far has surprised some of these customers? Like, because you obviously have like a who's who Rolodex, everyone. Like, so as you've talked to some of these, like, what's been the feedback that's maybe surprised them?
The thing that surprised people, and quite frankly me, is how easy it is. Like, everybody's like, at first I thought it was going to be really complex. Was I going to have to learn certain prompts? Was I going to have to roll into it? The customers that are on beta have a little diamond type thing, right? It's a little diamond in the upper left-hand corner. They click the diamond and Athena just says, hi.
Yeah.
And you just start talking to it. The other big differentiator that confused people at first is when Athena answers your questions, it gives you the answers in the platform on your screen in real time. So Athena's not just giving you answers, she's actually doing all of the inputs to the platform to get the output that is the answer, so that you can visually see it in front of you, in addition to being told the answer.
So let's walk through like that example. So let's say, like, I'm a customer, I'm a Zeta Global, I get Athena, now I start using it for free. Let's walk through scenarios in terms of like cross-sell, upsell.
Yeah,
like,
that's where it's big.
So give me like just some high-level examples of, like, I'm a manufacturing company.
Yep. Well, let's say most of our customers are facing consumers,
yes,
right? So let's go with, you could say to Athena, I would like to lower my marketing cost by 4%, but increase the number of customers I'm generating by 17%. How would I do that? And Athena will give you the answer on the targeted audiences, how you would activate to it, and how you would do it. You could then say, Athena, please activate to that, but I'd like a report every hour on the return on investment emailed to my inbox, because I might be out and I might not have access to the UI. But every hour you're going to get a report. Now, here's where the cross-sell begins. Athena can then say to a customer who does customer acquisition, by the way, I was looking at your existing customer base, and it looks like these 2.2 million people have tripled their likelihood to churn based on their online usage patterns over the next 90 days. Would you like to save them? And you've just gone from one use case to one Zeta, which is our multi-use case strategy. So today, for us to sell a one Zeta customer, we come in, it's a big strategy conversation. Sure. It's how do we start the flywheel where the data that informs customer acquisition informs retention, which informs monetization, which in turn informs acquisition. Sure. Athena cuts through all of that with real world answers.
So let's talk about like regulated industries, right? I mean, that's like such a...
Well, and that's what we're excited to work with you guys on.
Yes.
Right? So, what you guys are doing, and I know Kevin's here, I think.
From Orbs. Yeah.
From Orbs, this whole concept of AI is going to do everything. is great. And we're all in on it. And we believe ultimately agent to agent will be what happens, except in highly regulated industries. You look at health and wellness, you look at financial services, you look at insurance. Our clients, which are some of the biggest players in the world in that, are currently challenged with their regulatory environment as it relates to automation and AI everywhere, which is why we're partnering with you guys to help oversee that and have a human help from a regulatory perspective in those industries.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, we're so excited, at Orbs, because with all the other enterprise companies that we could have partnered with, you're really the only ones in the sweet spot that makes so sense for this, to really go after the industry. Because to some extent, you've talked about it, like when you think about Athena, and
You're literally pointing at it when you
and
say that.
and
That was great.
and I appreciate the color.
This is the Don
No,
Ives hat.
because I will tell you, David, he had phenomenal like trucker hats when Athena came out, and I'm like, David, these are unbelievable, but I'm just not
He
gonna
wouldn't
wear
wear it.
like a what came out with the pink one, so appreciate it. So when you think about like industries and you look at like Athena, let's talk through like there's so many opportunities. Like, how do you sort of segment it? Like when you think about like, for those to sort of look at your traction in 2026, like what are the industries specifically like that you're kind of salivating, being like those are the ones that we are really going after?
It's interesting. We operate in 15 approximate verticals. No one makes up a disproportionate percentage of our revenue. And I sort of always joke that in any year, one or two of them might not be doing great. Two or three of them are hyper scaling and then, sort of growing. We've really been scaling across greater than 10 verticals over the last couple of years. And I just think that's going to continue. I think as it relates to AI and as it relates to Athena, I think the more complex the sale is, the better our platform can deliver.
Interesting.
Because
can you just dive into that?
Yeah, so if you're looking at somebody who's trying to buy a bar of soap, I mean, we love consumer packaged goods, but it's not going to be our biggest vertical.
Sure.
But if you look at financial services, which obviously we're
Yep.
doing together, and you look at insurance, and you look at health and wellness, and you look at automotive, and you look at retail, these are incredibly complex sales.
Sure.
Because even if you just look at automotive, which is one of our bigger and fast, it's a fast growing vertical. If you look at automotive, you've got a manufacturer, you've got a dealer, you've got regional marketing, you've got national marketing, but most of that marketing, if you really want to be successful, has to be hyper local, because the average person's not going to drive 25 miles to go buy a car. They want to drive 5 to 7 miles to buy a car. Our platform is able to segment down to a concentric circle around a dealership of 5 miles, 3 miles, 7 miles, 12 miles. It's totally dynamic, and it'll constantly be testing how far out can you push that circumference to continue to drive the maximum return on investment. And then I really need to know if an individual is looking for a white convertible or a blue minivan. And the marketing is literally customized to that level.
That's what it really feels like. I think a lot of times, whether it's CES or just across the board, companies will talk about AI, but you're like, after they talk about what they're doing, it's even more confusing.
Right.
It really feels like it's very tangible what you're bringing to the customer. Like you're not going to walk out of a half-hour meeting with the CEO at CES being like, what do they even sell? It's very direct in terms of what you're selling and what the ROI is.
Yeah. And by the way, we exist in a world where marketing is moving in our direction. Everybody is looking for return on investment at this point. So not only our ability to deliver meaningfully higher return on investment than anybody else I know of out there. Uh, but we're able to prove it. The attribution capability is amongst the most important things we deliver to the client. And the crazy thing is, it gets better and better because let's talk about our agentic AI for a second. We're one of the very few companies I know of that has already strung 3 agents together into one agentic workflow. Most of our competitors are still trying to figure out one.
Yeah.
All right. So what does that look like? We might have one AI agent that is going through every one of your existing customers and in real time looking at the 242 million people in our data cloud and saying who's doing those exact same things. Then it's going to say, can that person be credit approved for their product and can they afford it? So you're removing all of the waste before you even go into market. The next agent in real time knows the best place to target that individual, whether it's connected television, what portals they actually don't just go to, but they transact in, should we be sending messages? And then to me, the coolest part is we have a real-time third AI agent who's doing attribution and informing the first 2 what worked. So you can look at clients. We have some clients that we started with, we were able to lower their cost to create a customer by 50%. 5 years later, that same client, we might have lowered their cost to create a customer by 386%. Because it just keeps getting smarter.
But Athena is going to keep making that smarter and smarter.
Correct.
So I could argue, like, if your flywheel is like this, it's going to, by definition, won't it keep going? I mean,
not only does it open it up, it opens additional addressable markets. Because clients who would not be capable of using our platform today will be able to seamlessly use it. So I sort of joke, one of the things about enterprise software today, and whether it's us or it's Salesforce or it's Adobe or it's one of the other guys, we're all building 747s. We build these massively complex platforms and our clients want to fly Cessnas. Which is not to say they don't want the comprehensive stuff, but I sit in meetings where the bells and whistles were put into this platform. One of our 572 global enterprise clients might say, that's interesting.
Yep.
But by putting Athena on top of it, you're effectively allowing for a self-serve automation.
See, that's the thing. I mean, I'd say like part of how like our affinity would become like really good friends because it's also,
it's not how I dress.
First of all, I love, and you're actually kind of like a under the radar fashionista as well.
I try.
But the thing is that you look at things, you've done for decades and decades.
God, now you're making me feel really old.
But in terms of working with corporations, work with CEOs, work with CES, but yet you look at things very simple. It's not buzzwordy. It's not like, you're not like acquiring like 20 companies.
Take a bite and put the cookie back. He literally took a bite of the cookie and put it back on the cookie tray. Nobody wants your half-eaten cookie.
That's a Costanza.
I don't think That is a Costanza moment.
It's a Costanza.
Did you double dip your chip?
Hun, did you?
I can't believe you just put that back.
It was a troll to the year efficiency.
All right.
I
interrupted a really nice compliment about me because I'm very uncomfortable. As a New York Jewish person, we're very uncomfortable with compliments.
And makes too.
Because like our parents have never complimented us.
But also, when you find double dippers or Costanzas, you have to call it out.
I mean, he literally put the cookie back.
No, it's going to go viral.
No. Okay, so that's a separate. We could do a separate podcast on cookie replacement. But the thing is, like, you look at things very simply and like no buzzwordy, and especially in this AI world, like when you walk around CES, right? Like we're talking about fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
But yet you keep things very simple, and you don't get into this buzzwordy and you constantly acquiring companies after companies.
Well,
you could just walk through that philosophy, which is, I find refreshing.
Well, I wish I could take credit for it. The credit goes back to a guy named Fryman, who was and the internet might kill me on this. I don't remember his exact background. I know he was a physicist at Princeton, and he was on, I believe, the Manhattan Project. Fryman was sort of one of the most brilliant human beings to ever exist. Years ago, I read a book about him, and I think it was called "Surely You're Kidding, Mr. Fryman," or whatever it was. It was the book he wrote, but his whole premise, and it's now many people call it Fryman's theory, is if you can't explain something to a child, you don't understand it. And that just hit me. And it was like, interesting. So for me, I don't sleep a lot. I read a lot. And I try to really understand things before I speak about them. I can't say I always can. You know, we all sort of have to come up with stuff off the top occasionally. But the reality is, for me, this journey started around AI back, you know, almost 10 years ago now, where I began reading papers about it, which really meant going into white papers from universities and really starting to understand what was coming down the pike as it related to artificial intelligence. And, you know, it's as big a compliment as you could pay me to tell me that I'm able to explain things simply. So I appreciate it.
No, and ironically, like in this world of AI, I only think only in the last few months have investors maybe connected dots relative to like you being an AI company. And I'm sure, like, you know, we've talked about it, like you're seeing so many other companies, you know, investors are so focused on like AI growth, yet it's almost like you really were there before many others. And now to some extent with Athena, it's really going to be able to help you monetize, as well as kind of like, I think reputationally too, show like, look, we were kind of here first.
Yeah, I agree. For some reason, we got no credit for being an AI company for quite some time when we were one of the forefront companies of it. Now, maybe that's our fault. Maybe we didn't scream it loud enough. Maybe we weren't out there talking about it.
Or you didn't have pink hats.
Right. If I had a pink hat, we would have gotten the AI credit.
It could have been a multiple expansion.
I agree with that. Maybe I should put that on.
Yeah, it could. That could expand the multiple.
Well, we'll take it. Yeah. We'll take it. But in all seriousness, I think that if you look at it, everybody's talking about AI as a new product. And we were talking about it as foundational. And it just confused people. So now we're talking about it as a new product, Athena, and everybody loves it. So it's great. But what I would tell you is that the companies that are doing the add-ons to their antiquated platforms, they're not going to win. Because think about it. If you've got a marketing platform and you're sitting here, you've got to step out to the artificial intelligence to do a query. The AI then has to do a data dip into a data repository to go back to the algorithm to create the intelligence to inform the platform and then take an action. Think of that in a world where we have to serve an ad in a millisecond. It doesn't work. So what they do is they jerry rig it to say, okay, we're going to look at 3 attributes. If this is a male, 24 to 44 with a household income of $78,000, we want to run that ad. We might put 30 or 40 incremental attributes. What have they read in the last week? What's their credit score? What are they focused on? What are they doing before they can even serve the ad? We're done. And that allows us to take all the waste out of our clients' marketing budgets, which leads to greater return on investment.